Hello everyone. In today's video, we dive into the latest article by Dr. Turki Faisal Al-Rasheed. It's published in Arab News. The title is The Path That Safely Carries the GCC's Future Forward. Before we begin, let me introduce the author. Dr. Turki Faisal Al-Rasheed, a Saudi businessman, academic, and thought leader. As an adjunct professor at the University of Arizona and advisor, American University of Beirut, Faculty of Food and Agricultural Dr. Turki Faisal Al-Rasheed, founder of Golden Grass Inc. He brings a rare blend of vision, expertise, and real-world insight to every article he writes. Dr. Al-Rasheed is also a distinguished author. His upcoming book, Saudi Arabia, Transformation, Uncertainty, and Sustainability, explores the kingdom's evolving economic and social landscape amid global change, offering deep insights into development, resilience, and long-term sustainability. Let's begin.
Right now, the Gulf region is standing at a major fork in the road, and the choice it makes is going to define its entire future. Today, we're going to break down this really critical moment, using the analysis of Dr. Turki Faisal Al-Rasheed as our guide. So, let's start with something that seems totally random. Think back to 2011. President Obama's limo, the Beast, this state-of-the-art, super-armored vehicle, it gets completely stuck on a simple ramp in Dublin. A multi-million-dollar machine totally defeated by a bit of pavement. And that moment, it's actually a perfect metaphor. It shows you that even the most high-tech, expensive systems can have these surprisingly simple and absolutely devastating flaws. And that metaphor, that image of the limo stuck on the ramp, it brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today. It's the risk that the Gulf region might be making a very similar and incredibly costly mistake, pouring money into these exquisite defenses that could just fail when it matters most. The U.S. military actually learned this lesson the hard way. That's why, back in 2015, they set up something called the Defense Innovation Unit, or DIU. The whole point was to get the Pentagon out of its slow, bureaucratic habits and plugged into the fast-moving tech world of Silicon Valley. They realized something absolutely critical. If you don't change how you think about technology, you're going to end up with these super expensive systems that are built for the last war, not the next one.
Well, according to Dr. Al-Rasheed's analysis, that next war isn't some far-off concept. It's happening right now, in the skies over the Middle East, and it's starting to show some really dangerous cracks in the region's defensive shield.
What we've seen recently is Iran carrying out this really methodical campaign. They've been targeting key radar sites. You're talking about the huge early warning radar in Qatar and several of the TPY-2 radars that are literally the eyes for the THAAD missile defense system. By doing this, they've effectively poked holes in the network. So it was supposed to be this layered, bulletproof system. Well, now it has some pretty serious gaps.
And this isn't random. It's a very systematic, three-step tactic. First, you kill the eyes. You take out those long-range radars that see things coming. Step 2, you kill the aim. You go after the fire control radars that actually guide the interceptors. And then finally, step 3, you destroy the batteries. You hit the launchers themselves. You see how it works? It's a brilliant way to dismantle a complex defense system piece by piece.
So this all leads to a massive question, one that everyone in the region has to be asking themselves right now. What happens when your protective shield is full of holes?
Well, one of the first things that happens is you run into a cost exchange crisis, and this is a huge economic problem. The attacker, Iran, can use a swarm of cheap drones and pretty low-cost missiles. But the defender? They're forced to fire interceptors that cost millions of dollars apiece. It's just not sustainable.
And because the political fallout of just one missile getting through, what they call a leaker, is so massive, commanders have no choice. They have to engage everything. You just can't take the risk. But when you do that, you burn through your very limited, very expensive supply of interceptors at an insane rate. It's a game you just can't win over the long term.
So, you see, this goes way beyond just a military problem. This vulnerability, this crack in the shield, it strikes right at the heart of the region's entire economic future. It puts these massive national projects, like Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030, directly in the line of fire.
Vision 2030 is built on these three massive world-changing pillars, finally breaking the economy's dependence on oil, turning the kingdom into a global center for investment, and building a modern, secure, truly ambitious nation. These are not small goals. This is a blueprint for a totally new future.
But, and this is the key, all of that incredible ambition relies on a physical foundation.
We're talking about legacy oil facilities, brand new industrial zones, huge solar and wind farms, and the power grids that connect everything. And every single piece of it is a potential target.
And look, this isn't just theory. We've already seen a preview of this. Remember the 2019 attacks on Abqaiq and Kuwars? They used drones and cruise missiles and managed to temporarily knock out about half of Saudi Arabia's oil production. That was 5% of the entire world's daily oil supply. It was a massive warning shot. And this is where we get to the author's central warning, his biggest concern, that the Gulf states are being drawn into a really dangerous trap, one that actually serves the interests of outside powers way more than their own.
So what exactly is this trap? Well, it's a future where a long, drawn-out conflict between the Gulf and Iran, stoked by outside actors, just drains all the region's money and energy. It would destabilize everything and bring incredible development projects like Vision 2030 to a grinding halt.
Now here's where the analysis gets really interesting and kind of counterintuitive. The absolute worst-case scenario isn't necessarily regime change in Iran. It's actually the chaos that could come after, a total collapse of the Iranian state. Think about it. That could mean huge refugee flows, militias spilling over the borders, and just constant disruption for the entire region. Okay, so if that's the trap, how do you avoid it? How does the region chart a different course? The analysis suggests it's time to build a new road, a path based on self-reliance and regional unity.
And the very first line of defense here isn't a missile system, it's unity. Unity within the Gulf Cooperation Council. The idea is to create a single, unified front that's all about de-escalation and diplomacy, to make sure that countries can't be pressured, divided, and picked off one by one.
So what does that look like in practice? The author lays out a four-step response. First, build your own autonomous sensor and command networks, so you're not reliant on a few foreign radars. Second, protect your interceptor stockpiles, and maybe even start producing them locally. Third, invest in cheaper, more layered defense systems. And fourth, make shielding all of those Vision 2030 assets your absolute #1 priority.
So really, what all of this boils down to is a fundamental shift in mindset. Every decision, every action has to be measured against one simple question. Does this serve the long-term security and vision of the GCC, or does it serve the short-term agenda of an outside power?
And that leads us to the final critical question. The whole situation presents a very clear choice between two totally different futures. So, which path is the region going to choose? And here it is, laid out plain and simple. Path 1 is the path of dependence. It leads to escalation, exhaustion, and the very real possibility that something like Vision 2030 becomes a casualty in someone else's war. Path 2 is self-reliance. It takes courage, it takes regional unity, and it's built on one core principle. Protecting your own development comes first. And that brings us right back to where we started. Dr. Al-Rasheed wraps it all up with this incredibly powerful thought, tying everything back to that limo on the ramp. The choice, he says, is stark. Either we become the ramp that wrecks someone else's armored car, or we build the road that safely carries our own future forward. A huge question for a region at a crossroads.
Conclusion. As we conclude this discussion, we return to the vision expressed by Dr. Turki Faisal Al-Rasheed, a vision rooted in clarity, innovation, and a deep commitment to shaping a more stable and interconnected future. For the full article, you can find the complete details in the description below. And to learn more about the author, visit www.tfrasheed.org. If this video gave you insight or inspired your thinking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more discussions like this. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay curious, and see you in the next video.